Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets powered by FTN. Chris Meaney here with you. Thanks for taking the time to hang out here on a Game Plus Network. Man, a lot of good shows on a Game Plus Network. I was taking a look at the guide today. I mean, my goodness, you got Pat Mayo, you got the footballers, Jake Seeley's show, All in Football's been on Game Plus. You got Emery Hunt, who I think is the sharpest guy in the industry. I really do. From a football standpoint, that guy is on point. I got to try to see if I can get him back here on Mean Streets. I know he's a busy dude. He's got a lot going on. He did make an appearance before the season started on this show. I got to see if I can get him back on Game Plus Network. A lot happening over there. So just thrilled to have this show part of the great programming over at Game Plus. And a shout out to everybody over at Anthem Sports and Entertainment in the control room here in Toronto. We got a lot to talk about here on the show. Thursday Night Football, of course. That means Gilles Gallant of FTN Bets, Dog Day Afternoon. Touchdown Town, a couple of shows that you can catch. My goodness. A couple of shows that you can catch over at Bets TV and Bets Media. We'll be all right here on the show. I'm excited. You know why? You know why I'm excited? Here we go. Sid the Kid. I'm rich. I picked this up, Tim's card here this morning, Tim Hortons card. Shout out to my Canadian fam. Apparently that's worth like $49, so like maybe like $4 American, but Sid the Kid, right? We're off to a good start here. Unfortunately for him, he has been placed on the COVID list. Man, COVID really just ramping up here again. Man, it's tough. I'm sick of it too. I want it to go away. Everybody be safe out there. But we're seeing players. I mean, Aaron Rodgers yesterday was the big news. Sidney Crosby here. We're seeing other players in the NHL, other players in the NFL as well. I believe AJ Green was the latest I saw. So COVID kind of ramping through all over the place here again. So it's tough. It's tough times. It's really, we wish Sid and everybody the best and he can get back on the ice and back on the field, and hopefully everybody recovers here pretty quickly. But we will talk some NHL today. We got 9 games. We got Dustin Shaffey. Is it Shaffey? Is it Shafe? My apologies. I mean, I'm not great at pronouncing last names. Honestly, I'm pretty bad at it. And maybe it's because nobody could pronounce Meaney. Like it would be like Meanwhie. I've heard Meanwhie tons. Meaney I've heard quite a bit growing up and playing organized sports and just hearing people call my names. But Dustin, we appreciate you hanging out here today. If you are hanging out live, recording the show a little bit early, and you could be watching on the FTN YouTube page. If you can smash that like button, subscribe, leave a comment, a question. We want you to be part of this show. So if you have any questions, start or sit, hockey, NBA, we'll talk some basketball a little bit later on with Tino. 9 games in the ice. We'll have some shot props as well as some picks. And of course, we will talk Thursday Night Football with Jill. We'll get some touchdown calls from Mr. Gallant, and also I got some props as well. We're up to 26 units in the NFL. It's been okay. Last week was a struggle. Talked about it a lot on the show. Happy that that week is just over and ready to move on and start here today with the Colts and with the Jets. Indy heavy favorites here at home, 10.5, total in around mid-40s. We'll get to some props in a little bit later on as well. I'm actually feeling okay about some of the props. I put them in last night. Usually I wait till Thursday morning. I put them in last night. Gave some boards to my guy 3 putts for par, George. So we'll come at you a little bit later on here with some props. But I appreciate the comment here. Dustin says he's been tailing all of the NHL plays and it's been awesome. Won in a few units yesterday. Thanks for all the great content. We appreciate it, man. Yeah, yesterday was pretty good. The shot props, gave 5 of them, got 4 for 5. It ended on a sour note with Dustin Brown. I know a lot of people in the FTN Discord channel had, the Columbus Blue Jackets on the puck line. We got that against Colorado. We got Carolina. We continue to roll with Carolina. They're undefeated. I think you can continue to roll with them until they lose. And then we did have the Oilers, but unfortunately Dustin Brown couldn't get it done for some of the FTN subscribers who were in on that full parlay. But we'll try to bounce back here today. I got a lot of shot props. I got a lot of notes. I'm old school here. Look at all this. Like, it's just nonsense. Like, you can't see it. The lighting. There you go. Look at all that nonsense. We'll break it down with a pretty little graphic from, again, George here in a little bit, but some shot props, lots. Just recorded the show with Eric Young, Dangle Betselli. It's a free fantasy hockey show where we went through all 9 games from a betting standpoint, a DFS standpoint, And like I said, it is a free show. You can listen on iTunes, Apple, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to your podcast. You can watch the replay on our YouTube page, ftmbets.com. It's all there available for you. And we gave away a couple betting packages this week on the show as well. And we'll continue to do that. And one thing I'll say about the betting packages, I said multiple times, but I really just think it's great value out there, because if you're a sports freak like me, and this time of the year they're all happening, baseball is over. You know what? Baseball's not over. Baseball's just starting now. We're starting prep for the 2022 season, okay? I just saw Nick Castellanos opted out. It's going to be a big free agent get. Who's going to land him? We're going to talk baseball here, off-season stuff. Take a little bit of a break. Obviously, there's no games to talk about, but, we'll still, dive into the baseball. But the betting package gives you every pick across every sport from everybody over at FTN. You got the Discord channel, an opportunity to talk to people like yesterday. We had Bowen Byram at 5-1 to score a goal. He scored two. He scored 2 goals. He had a great game. There's no Makar. There's no Taves. So he's a terrific defenseman. He's really good. He's a sophomore defenseman, a Canadian boy who can, move the puck with ease. He's a great skater. He's a fantastic player, but, he was sub-4 DK because really when Colorado Avalanche are at full health, then, he's kind of forgotten about it. He had an opportunity, and he came through for us yesterday. So hopefully we can call some more goals over at ftmbets.com here today. But that betting package, if you wanted to be part of the fam, you can use that promo code MeanStreets or NHL. NHL is a 20% discount, so use that now before it goes away, and that'll get you save yourself a little bit of cash for the betting package. But we will be giving away more on Dangle Bet Selly, so if you show me that you're subscribed to that show, or heck, Mean Streets as well, you can check it out on iTunes. Subscribe to either show. Send that over to @ChrisMeaney on Twitter, or the email meanstreetsftn@gmail.com. We'll put your name into a hat. We'll be giving away some stuff. We'll give away some hockey stuff too. Maybe I'll give away the Sidney Crosby card. I don't know. You want to get another look at that? It's not bad. It's not bad. It's the kid. We will give away some stuff. I was up on Pristine Auction last night looking at some NHL memorabilia. I like a lot of stuff on there. So, I may have to purchase some selfishly for me, but also wouldn't mind giving some out just because the appreciation that we've had for this show and the other shows and you guys hanging out with us, seriously, it really does mean the world to me. So any questions, you can leave them there in the YouTube section with my guy Dustin hanging out here. So some big news, I guess, in the NHL. We could start there. We normally don't. I wanted to bring it up here first. Vegas, baby. Vegas is what Jack Eichel tweeted this morning, Photoshop with him in a Golden Knights jersey. Finally, that whole saga with Jack Eichel and the Sabres is over. It's done with. Last night there was a report that he was, potentially going to be shipped off to Calgary. Now the rumored report, the package was significant for the Flames. I mean, it was multiple firsts. I believe maybe Sean Monahan was involved and Matthew Tkachuk, RFA. I'm not here to say that these reports are fake or not real. And Kevin Weeks does some great job. I really like Kevin Weeks. I think he's great. And I'm not here to say that it was bogus, but also at the same time, I mean, that's a pretty good deal. It's a pretty good offer. If it was real, they probably would have taken it. I'll just say that. But this is not bad either. If you're a Buffalo Sabres fan, I understand you lost Eichel. It's gut-wrenching. You've gone through so much here. He's a really good player. But honestly, I think they did okay. So if you're just checking out here with the show, Darren Dreger had tweeted that Eichel and a 2023 third-round pick to Vegas for Peyton Krebs, who's a pretty good prospect. I think it's a nice building chip for them, a nice young player. Alex Tuck, I also think, is a really good player. He's a fantasy hockey. He's awesome for fantasy hockey. I mean, for those bangers leagues, you're playing with hits and block shots and shots on goal, all that stuff. I mean, he touches a lot of categories, and he was playing on third line in Vegas, getting second power play time. This guy is going to play top minutes in Buffalo. He's about a month, 6 weeks away from returning off-season shoulder surgery. Make sure he's rostered. I'd pick him up and grab him, like place him on IR or whatnot. But he's a guy who can touch a lot of categories under, a team-friendly contract here the next 4 years, I believe, after this one, sub $5 million. So that's, I guess, Buffalo's biggest thinking here is, yeah, I mean, Matthew Tkachuk would be nice. He's an RFA. We have him under control for a little bit. Does he want to sign a long-term extension there? It's probably tough to get a lot of, for Buffalo, they wanted to get a young player, semi-young. Tuck's only been in the league for a couple years. He's a proven goal scorer. He can score you 30. Maybe he can get up to 35. I do believe that he has that kind of upside, but also he's under contract, right? So I think that was important for Buffalo to get a player under contract. They're in a really bad spot to trade Eichel. Everyone knows that Eichel wants out. He wants a surgery. Buffalo didn't want him to get to the surgery. There's just all kinds of nonsense there, but I think they did okay. They also got a first in 2022 and a third in 2023, so not bad. As for Eichel, means exactly what Vegas needed. I don't know how they're going to be able to make this work next season. They got a lot of dudes under contract. Riley Smith comes off the books next year at $5 million. That saves them a little bit of cash. Buffalo not retaining any money, I don't believe, and I think that first pick is protected top 10. But even still, I think that was a pretty good return for Buffalo, and it's exactly what Vegas needed. I mean, they're just loaded on the wings with Marchessault and Smith and Stone and Pacioretty, and then you got Chandler Stevenson, who has been good over the past couple of years, but he's not a true number one center. You bump him down to the third line there, and then you have William Karlsson on the second line, and then Vegas can come at you in waves. Like they're great. They were my team. Them in Florida, I expected to go pretty far. My 2 cup picks, and I like them both. I love this deal for Vegas. They're depleted right now. It does sound like Eichel's going to go for undergo neck surgery, and then he's going to be sidelined for about 4 months, so you could get him back around March. So, if you pick him up, you see him on waiver wire, you get an IR plus IR spot, you can chuck him on there, and then you get him for that stretch run in your fantasy hockey season. But that was the biggest news in the sports world. It's finally done. The trade hap broke, I think, at like 4 a.m. local time in Vegas. Of course it did, right? I mean, nobody sleeps in Vegas. They're always up. I mean, Vegas is great. Do yourself a favor and go check out a Golden Knights game. It is an awesome time. I've been to about a dozen arenas in the NHL, and that tops them. It really does. I mean, obviously Montreal is fantastic for selfish reasons. I like it. But clearly, the Bell Center is a place you need to go to as well. But Vegas, man, they put on a show. They really do. Your seats are vibrating. They put on this like 10-minute show before the game. They got the Jumbotron. They got all this stuff. I mean, a knight comes on the ice and does his little thing and dances around, stabs the ice. And they put on a show. Obviously, it's Vegas. But, I mean, the sound system is rocking, and the seats are shaking. And it's not too much. It's not too much. It really is fantastic. I got to go check out Eichel in Vegas, maybe in March. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll talk some NFL in a little bit. Also, big news is OBJ. He was excused from practice again today. Just check your waiver wire to see if this guy is out there. My expectation is that he's going to get released. I just think he's going to get released. If you're Cleveland, you got to just move on from this guy, cut your ties, and you're going to eat a little bit of, the money and the salary, but you release him, and I'm sure somebody else is going to pick him up, and he's going to be in a better landing spot. He could go to Green Bay, could go to New Orleans, he could go to Las Vegas. There's some other spots that he could go to, and then he's going to be fantasy relevant. But I've noticed his ownership has dropped quite a bit over the last week or so because he hasn't been doing anything. Hasn't been getting any targets. But that's the biggest news out of today is OBJ excused from practice a second day in a row. Gilles is in here next. We're going to preview this Thursday night football game. I think it could be a little entertaining. I know it's a 10.5 spread here for the Colts, but I think there's a lot of value on the board, and I think we could, attack some props at plus money that I think we can get behind. And Gilles is always good. He's always calling touchdowns. So Mean Streets continues here next. We'll preview tonight's football game, so don't go anywhere. As I said, Mean Streets continuing here on Game Plus Network. Keep it locked. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Mean Streets here on a Game Plus Network. We got Gilles Gallant here with us, G-Dog 5000 of Bets TV, FTN Bets, killing it over there. Dog Day Afternoon, Touchdown Town, two shows that you can catch over at Bets TV, at Bets Media as well. Jill, man, happy Thursday here, dude. I know people may not be totally interested in Colts and Jets here today, but I don't know, man. I think this could be a sneaky little fantasy game. I think we could see some points. I also think that there's a lot of value on the board with these two teams. Welcome in, man.
Thank you. Yeah, and I actually think these types of games are the ones that actually draw me in more for touchdown scores, similar to like the way the Browns and Broncos did. And the reason being is because the team, well, specifically the Jets, are so bad that you can get so much value on different touchdown scores. Like basically like every wide receiver for the Jets right now is like over plus 200. Every running back is plus 150 or more. So you're getting value pretty much across the board. And the reason being is because the Jets offensively, outside of last week, are not very good. So you're kind of bucking the trend here of trying to maybe will some touchdowns into existence. But I just don't see the Jets being shut out tonight. I think they're going to score at least 2 to 3 touchdowns tonight.
Of course, it's Mike White, man. Are you kidding me? The guy's a legend.
White Lotus.
He threw for yeah, nice. 400 passing yards, the most since Vinny Testaverde. You know, for the Jets, of course, we see other quarterbacks at 400, but that was back in 2000, and it was check down Mike White. I agree with you, man. I think there's some value when it comes to the Jets. I was taking a quick peek as well, and I don't know actually where you're going. I'm unsure, but let's bring up the board here of just the game board of what we have here this morning from my guy George. So yes, it is Thursday Night Football. Got the 2-5 Jets, 3-5 Colts, minus 10.5. Over under 46. Now I put this down here is like, I wanted to just get your thoughts on which side, maybe if you're feeling 10.5 or plus 10.5, I'd like to get your thoughts on that. But, you know, my buddy of mine brought this up yesterday and he does some teasers and we talked some teasers on Friday's show. And so maybe you could put in a teaser in some, you know, maybe 3 or 4 other games from Sunday. But which side would you rather be on? Jets plus 17.5 or Colts 7.5 if you tease that down or up to 7 points?
I would definitely rather be on the Colts side, 100%, just because it is still Mike White. He is like, I think this is going to be kind of maybe a rude awakening style of game, just because I think the Colts defense is still feistier than they let on. And I think maybe we overvalued the Bengals. I think that's the one thing too, is that, and the other thing too, is the Bengals were probably going to win by double digits if Joe Burrow just doesn't throw that back-breaking interception in his own end in the fourth quarter. So I think it's one of those things that I feel like this is going to be at least a 10-point win for the Colts. Like, I think I would just still feel comfortable taking them at the minus 10.5. I don't really love taking big spreads in this spot, but it is still the Jets. The Jets are on the road. They're playing a quarterback that, yes, he had one good game, but I'm not really willing to say that that's going to carry over to another week. Again, that's just my opinion. But again, if I was looking at the teasing options, I would probably tease down that Colts down to 3.5 and try to get it with another game on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I you know, and if Burrow doesn't turn over that football, maybe I'm still hanging around in my Survivor League. But
you had the Bengals. Oh no.
Okay. You know, I'm lucky that half of my survivors I'm done, completely done. My thinking was them or the Chiefs, and I'm like, I really want to save Kansas City. And then talking with Matthew Davis here of FTN as well. We do a FTN Fabcast podcast together on Tuesdays. He's a big high stakes player. We're in a pool together as well in Survivor. And we had, since he locked in, and just like 5 minutes before kickoff, I chatted. I was just like, dude, are we doing this? Are we really going with Cincy? And he's like, let's go KC. And I was just so happy that I double checked with him and he was able to just change my mind. And so we're still hanging on in that pool, even though we had to sweat that one out on Monday night as well. But yeah, for those who picked the Bengals, maybe they aren't as good as what we thought they were. Classic letdown spot, right? Even though I love them this week against the Brownies. But we're talking Jets here today. So we haven't chatted, like I said, but we've been talking a lot about quarterbacks on Thursday. You hit a plus 1,000, right? It was 10-1 on Carson Wentz a couple weeks ago.
I did.
Are you interested in going back to Mr. Wentz here today?
I am probably going to go to Wentz. And so we'll stick with the Colts right now. So here's the reasoning why is that both Nyheim Hines and Carson Wentz are my 2 Colts touchdown plays. I'm doing 4 touchdown scores today instead of the regular 3. And I'm taking Nyheim Hines at plus 240. Those are odds available at FanDuel. And Carson Wentz, he's plus 450 and maybe even plus 400, depending on the book that you win. I went with Bet 365 for this one. And the reason being is because the Jets are just getting abused on the ground. Like 13 touchdowns to running backs this year. That's second last in the NFL. It's the most rushing touchdowns allowed. So the Lions technically have more touchdowns allowed to running backs than the Jets. But Hines, what I've been noticing with his usage, it's just been kind of increasing over the last month, even though that coincides with Jonathan Taylor scoring touchdowns in 5 straight games. So that's the one thing that I like, is that even though Taylor is getting the production, Hines is still seeing the field, and he was in the red zone when they had red zone snaps against the Titans when they were trying to kind of come back and win that game. And especially if for whatever reason the Jets get a lead and they need a third down passing back, Hines is that guy. Wentz is more of the odds gut play, and because he only has the one rushing touchdown, which we did cash, but again, the Jets are just so bad at stopping the run that it would not shock me if Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, and Carson Wentz all had a touchdown tonight, just because of how bad they have been at stopping the run. Like we saw it just 2 weeks ago against the Patriots. They had like 5 rushing touchdowns in that game. Joe Mixon scored twice last week. Again, they just can't stop that position from what it seems like throughout the start of the year. So for me, yeah, I got to go with Carson Wentz at plus 450 for the value, but Nyheim Hines is my favorite Colts player to play at plus 240.
Yeah, Hines is interesting. I've seen what you've seen as well. A little bit more touches out of the backfield. And if this game does get out of hand, I mean, you got to think that they're going to, Taylor just maybe take a bit of a seat here, and we'll give some play to Nyheim Hines. I mean, Marlon Mack is still on that roster. They did cut Jordan Wilkins, but I like that long shot for Nyheim.
And I'm not mad at Mack either. Like, I've seen some people ask me, like, hey, what do you think about Marlon Mack? Just because we got past the trade deadline now. So now it's almost like, okay, I'm not in the Colts room, so I don't know what they're thinking from an offensive game plan standpoint. But if it is that situation, Marlon Mack could get a lot of that garbage time. And right now I've seen him around plus 600, plus 700 to score today.
Yeah, I'm seeing on DraftKings 7-1. That's what I was going to bring up. I mean, I don't think that's a bad long shot either. If this game does get out of hand, we could see that. But I love the Nyheim Hines call. On the other side, is Jamison Crowder too obvious? I'm looking, and plus 225. Like, that seems like
I don't think he's too obvious. I don't think he's too obvious because of how he plays and where he plays. Like, mainly playing in the slot. Like, they're going to let Elijah Moore and Mims, or even to a lesser extent, maybe they might even put Michael Carter out wide. You know what I mean? It just, for me, the way that I look at this game, the way I look at this team is that Jamison Crowder is the safety valve. He's the one who's going to be trying to get past to whenever the defensive line rushes through that offensive line, which is going to happen a lot with DeForest Buckner and Krupp. So for me, that's why I'm a little leery about taking like a Ty Johnson or a Michael Carter, because I just don't see them being able to run the ball very well against this team. Plus, the Colts' defensive weakness is wide receivers. They allowed 13 touchdowns allowed to wide receivers this year. That's last in the NFL. Plus, as well, 5 touchdowns to tight ends. That's 28th in the NFL. So Jamison Crowder at plus 225. My next pick, this is the long shot pick, Tyler Kroft at plus 750.
Let's go. He was wide open in the end zone last week.
Well, he did catch one. Again, it was, I don't want to call it garbage time because the Jets did win the game. But so I had a lot of people ask me, like, what do you think about Ryan Griffin instead, or Tyler Kroft, trying to like weigh the two, because essentially it is a bit of coin flip, and they both have, depending on the book, plus 600, plus 700 odds, depending on what you're looking at. But from a production standpoint, whenever Kroft is on the field, he's out snapping Griffin. Like, basically, so Kroft missed a few games this year, and that's one of the things that's a little tricky with betting a guy like him, is that he is a little bit more injury prone than Griffin. But so far in a Jets uniform, he has out-snapped and out-targeted Ryan Griffin, and he's played 2 less games. So if I'm going to be trying to pick a tight end to exploit this defense, I'm going to go with Tyler Kroft at plus 750.
Yeah, I do like that call. I just feel like Mike White's going to have to throw the football because of what you alluded to with the Colts. I mean, according to Football Outsiders, the best defense, rush DVOA defense. They're a tough team to really run on. I know that Derrick Henry wasn't 100%. Last week, but they really struggled to get anything going even before he suffered that foot injury. And I mean, he still had like 28 carries or something silly like that, but it is a tough team to run on. You figure the Colts are going to have their way. on offense, score a few points, and then the Jets are throwing here, and that's the biggest thing. Like, you can take some value on some of these guys. Croft. I'm looking at the game log too when it comes to wide receivers. My goodness, they really have struggled against wide receivers. Jill, like obviously AJ $155 and a touchdown, but Nick Westbrook-Akine had a touchdown. Debo had 100 and a touchdown. Marquise Brown had 2 touchdowns. Devontae Parker, Chester Rogers playing in the slot.
Same story every week,
goodness.
man. Every week when you look through, even against the Dolphins, they allowed touchdowns, and like the Dolphins can't do anything offensively, really. So it's just one of those things that I'm not saying that I don't think that the Colts have a good defense. I actually really like their defense, but for whatever reason, they cannot stop the deep pass. And when they get into the red zone scenario, wide receivers are getting open on them. And now it's just dependent on whether or not what we saw from Mike White last week was a fluke or not. Is it going to be Mike Fluke or is it going to be Mike Wright? Like, you know what I mean? Is he going to be able to get this done for us? And so Crowder is obviously the obvious pick. I think if I was looking for a long shot receiver, I know some people have been asking about Mims. I would actually prefer Elijah Moore just because they have shown that they've used him kind of on jet sweeps before, and I just think he's more talented than Denzel Mims. I've seen him around the plus 600, plus 500 range in some looks. So if I was looking for a long shot wide receiver, it would probably be Elijah Moore. But I just think in this scenario, if you're going to give me plus 225 for what is now wide receiver 1, I'm going to take it.
Yeah, I mean, for Crowder, when he's healthy, man, he's productive and he gets targets no matter who the quarterback is. Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Mike White, it doesn't matter.
He's averaging like 9 targets a game in the 4 games since he returned. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's just target share wise, it's not even close. Like, obviously, if Corey Davis was playing tonight, I might be looking at him a little bit more just because I think he is a little bit more talented and he can beat them on the deep bomb. But no Davis, so that means that Crowder is just going to be able to slide into that slot. And I just don't think that he's going to be put out wide the way that Davis is. He's going to be used probably a little bit more in the slot, trying to be a little bit just kind of like the short intermediate passes, especially for a guy like Mike White, who's probably going to be under a lot of pressure and have to get rid of that ball quickly.
Yeah, he will. 9 targets, 8 grabs, and 84 yards last week for Crowder. 2-point convo with. He's actually got 2 2-point combos, which again is just more reason to like him because he is looked at inside the red zone. And then he has a touchdown too. He has played 4 games, 30 targets, 23 grabs. And I like the Elijah Moore call as well. What I noticed that Denzel Mims kind of took that Corey Davis role. He played more snaps than anybody. But Elijah Moore, I think he was 3rd or 4th on the team in snaps. But man, when he was on the field, they found a way to get him the ball. You look at the box score, he was involved for a guy that was like 4th on his team in routes run. But he was, some end arounds. We've seen a couple times in back-to-back weeks. He had an end around 2 weeks ago, which he converted for a touchdown as well. I'll get you out of here on this because there is a question. We have Eric Brown says, how about Mike White anytime touchdown, or is that too public? Or Cole Sr. anytime touchdown? What do you think about those two guys?
Surprisingly, White touchdown is not really a public play. Just because even in the mop-up duty he had the week before and last week, not really running the ball. And I think it's because they don't trust him, and I don't blame them at this point. But I think at the same time, the Colts defense has just been so good that it's difficult to really justify a bet. That being said, if you're going to bet them, do it. Like, again, it's one of those bets that I really wouldn't try to talk people out of because I've seen them as high as plus 900, plus 1,000. And these are the types of bets that you want to make, like these type of long shot bets. Like, I would rather a Mike White touchdown bet than an Elijah Moore touchdown bet, just because you know that Mike White's, unless he gets hurt, is going to be on the field for every single Jet snap.
Right. I'm seeing plus 650, but again, use our free prop shop parlay calculator to get the best possible odds. And yeah, that's what I'm seeing is just 650 in there. Seems like the best one for Mr. Mike White. Dude, appreciate you. I love Thursdays. Love picking your brain. Gilles Gallant, give him a follow. GDog5000 on Twitter machine. Again, host of Touchdown Town and Dog Day Afternoon over at Bets Media is their Twitter handle. Bets TV as well. These dudes, man, you and sorry, who's the guy that you do the show with again on Sundays?
Brendan Deeg with National Football Post.
Super sharp as well. Yeah, super sharp. You guys are always calling touchdowns, man. I love it. Love the show. Keep up the great work, dude. Good luck tonight. We're going to continue the Thursday Night Football talk. I got a couple props, and we'll turn the page. Got a couple hockey props, and Tino's going to join us a little bit later to talk NBA. Still a lot to come here on the show. Mean Streets continues on Game Plus Network. Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you. We're going to continue to the Thursday night football talk here between the Colts and the Jets. Some great stuff there from Gilles Gallant. Yes, Eric says, thanks, bro. And I love Touchdown Town. He is gone, but I will pass that along. Maybe he's hanging out watching. He says he cashed that Westbrook touchdown. Yeah, Gilles super sharp, man. I just love, being able to have him on Thursdays. He calls... He has a lot of good calls, a lot of touchdown calls that he has for us over at FTN. Two good shows that I think that you guys would enjoy as well. All right, so this is what I'm thinking from Thursday night from a prop standpoint. I think the Jets cover. I think 10.5 is a lot. I know it's the Jets, and it could feel a little uneasy to put your money down on this team. And last week was maybe a little bit of weirdness. There was some turnovers, maybe a classic letdown spot potentially for the Bengals. But I don't know, man. I think they got a little bit of life here with Mike White. I think, Jamison Crowder is an absolute beast. As you see, I got the catch prop there. It could be garbage time. It's not my favorite pick, but that's where I'm leaning. You see, it's last, Jets 10.5, but that's where I'm leaning. That's what I'm going to pick in my own pool, unless my guy Matty Wood can talk me out of it. I'm pretty easy going. If he feels strong about the Colts, then we can go that way. But I am going to bet it myself, Jets plus 10.5. I've really liked the pass-catching backs here. Last week we had on this show, we talked about Michael Carter at 18.5 receiving yards. We had the over 3.5 grabs at plus 150. The week before that, we had the over 2.5 grabs at plus money as well. Now it has jumped up here to 4.5 grabs, but you can get it at plus 125 over at BetMGM. I think, as we get closer to kickoff, this could be closer to even money. I know it's a high number, but I really do like this. I mean, you have a guy in Carter who has racked up 23 targets and 17 catches in his last 2 games. The Colts are the best team in football against the run, according to Football Outsiders. They don't give up a whole lot. They're a strong run defense, and I don't think, Carter will have a lot of success running the rock. I think he'll catch 5 passes. I think Ty Johnson is in play to catch a couple passes. Books are kind of sleeping on him a little bit, over 2.5 grabs at minus 139. Also like the over 20.5 receiving yards that you don't see on the board here for Ty Johnson as well. He has over 130 receiving yards in his last 2 games. I think you could wait. You can maybe get Ty Johnson at 3.5 at plus money in some spots, but I'm okay with this number at minus 139. I think you can get it into one of those same game parlays, a bet builder at Bet365, and it correlates really well. You take the Johnson over 2.5 grabs, you take the Johnson receiving yards. If he has 3 catches, I think he gets to 20 receiving yards. And I think I'm a little shy and hesitant on the Carter receiving yard prop. It's a little high, but I do believe he's going to continue to get targets. One, I think they will be playing from behind. And what I've seen from Mike White is check down Mike White. He has just targeted his running backs and Corey Davis. And Jamison Crowder, rather. Before we get to Crowder in a second, just more on Johnson. For Johnson, just over the last 2 games, he has 11 grabs and 13 targets. As I mentioned, over 130 receiving yards. So he and Carter heavily involved. Carter was the RB1 in fantasy last week. He's starting to overtake that backfield in terms of getting the bulk of the carries, but Ty Johnson is still involved. It's almost like Denver. There's a bit of a series. You take a series, you take a series. If the drive extends, then you get a little bit of Ty in there. You get some red zone packages with Ty Johnson in there as well. It does seem like he's the goal line back, which won't help us out a lot in terms of catches, but nonetheless, I do like the over. And then Jamison Crowder. I mean, this is a guy that I always take. I know a couple weeks ago, remember how upset I was on this show? I had him as like the 4th and final in a 4-leg parlay that was, was worth a little bit of money, and I just didn't get it. I only had the 4 grabs, but that was when the quarterback change happened. It was Zach Wilson, and then, Crowder had 1 catch with Wilson, and he just played a little bit with Mike White, and White gave him 3 grabs. You need 1 more there, but last week went back to it and hit it. This week, I'm fine with it. There's no Davis. Crowder, we talked about in the last segment, 4 games, 30 targets, and 23 catches. So he's averaging over 5.5 catches per game here in the 4 games, just right at that number. But I do believe that they're going to be playing from behind here, and they're going to have to throw the football. So that's what I'm thinking here from an NFL standpoint. Any questions as well, always circle back on the YouTube page, FTN. Oh yeah, I didn't even mention the Colts guys. The Colts guys mean Michael Pittman is getting targeted down the field quite a bit this season. I love Pittman. We've talked a lot about him on this show. Target hog. He's getting a big chunk of the air yards. He's getting targeted down the field, and he's pulling in a lot of those grabs, man. He's like Randy Mossing it. He's going up, and he's getting it. He's a terrific wide receiver. A breakout season for him for sure. And then with Jonathan Taylor, this is a number that I think he can get to. His rushing attempt prop was at like 17.5, 18.5. I was considering it, but the game may get out of hand and they could, maybe put him on the bench for a bit. But I do think that, he can just bust one of these. And if he busts one run, like 20, 25 plus yards, I think we can get to that total. But I really like the Jets, guys. As I mentioned, I think they'll be playing from behind. It's just the 10.5. Can you really trust Carson Wentz, right? I mean, I root for the guy. He's had a pretty good season. Last week was a disaster. The throw inside the end zone, the pick and the interception in overtime was a disaster. But he's playing some good football. But I can't 10.5 points with Carson Wentz. We're going to switch gears. We're going to talk a little hockey. Dustin's been hanging out with us for a little bit. So we got some shot props. We got some picks. Keep her locked. All right, 9 games on the ice in the NHL here this evening. As I mentioned, Dangle Batselli, it's a free show. Eric Young and myself, we broke down every game from a DFS standpoint, a shot prop standpoint, and a pick standpoint. Also sprinkled in some fantasy hockey advice. Took a look at week 5 of the fantasy hockey season. You can go check that out over at ftnbets.com or on our YouTube page at FTN Network. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking from a pick standpoint here today. I got 1 or 2 upsets on the board, but I'm really just... The first 2 games, probably my strongest feel here with the Islanders against the Canadiens. I think this is pretty good odds. Ilya Sorokin struggled at the start of the season. He allowed 5 goals in each of his first 2 games, but he played the Carolina Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers. Those 2 teams are awesome. The Habs are not. So they're taking the Islanders here, despite them being on the road at -139, and think Sorokin is a pretty good play in DFS. He's only allowed 1 goal in his last 3 games, and he's faced a lot of rubber as well. The Habs are depleted on the blue line. I don't have a lot of offense to offer. So as you see, I like the under 5.5 as well. But the Islanders, my favorite play. I'll probably have, my parlay, my big parlay will probably include the Islanders and the Flames. Got Calgary here at home against the Dallas Stars. And I like the under in that as well. I mean, Dallas just doesn't score any goals. They have an issue scoring goals. They scored a couple the other day against the Jets, but it was Eric Comrie in net for Winnipeg and not Connor Hellebuck. So I think they caught a bit of a break getting the backup there. Jacob Markstrom's been fantastic this season. He's got 3 shutouts. I really like the Flames. They're generating a lot of offense, but at the same time, I like Braden Holtby. I have some respect for him that he can keep this number under 5.5, but my parlay will be the Islanders and the Flames. I may sprinkle in the Bruins and the puck line there. I don't have them on the board. They're heavy favorites here. I was kind of waiting to see if Dylan Larkin would play for the Wings. He's not going to play due to personal reasons. At least it looks like he's not going to play here today, so you could put the Bruins in there, maybe on the puck line to make that worth your while, but I think this is a decent, I believe I have it in the bet tracker at nearly plus 200 just for the Islanders and the Flames. You can go Islanders in the under, Calgary in the under, maybe to go like a bit of a 4-leg parlay there. And then I have the Flyers as an upset, plus 120. Mentioned Sid the Kid, not going to be with the team. I've been impressed with Pittsburgh, kind of getting through the first couple weeks of the season with Crosby only playing 1 game. No Evgeny Malkin. Jeff Carter was sidelined for a bit. Brian Rust. Jake Gensel missed the first couple games of the season. I just really like the direction of this Flyers team. I like the additions that they made. The blue line's much better. Carter Hart's playing good in net. I love the second line with Joel Farabee and Cam Atkinson's giving them a second punch. And you know what? That first line is really strong. And Sean Couturier is one of my favorite players in the NHL. He's extremely underrated, a great 2-way player, can provide some offense, and he's terrific defensively, and him and Claude Giroux really have it going on. So plus 120, I think we could see some goals. I was kind of flirting with the over there as well. But Washington and Florida, I'm going to back the Panthers. I know they're without Sam Bennett, but Washington's missing a few guys too. No Nicholas Backstrom, no TJ Oshie. This should be a fun game. It should be entertaining, but you guys know I'm big on the Panthers. I really like this Florida team. The odds are actually coming down. I gave these picks last night to my guy George, but they're coming down a little bit. So I think you can get 5 to 6 to 1 on these. So if you want to play get Florida at around minus 138 or so. But I'm in on the Panthers, and I like the over there as well. There is one other upset I think I could throw at you guys, and it's the Senators. I do like the Sens at home against Vegas. I know they just acquired Jack Eichel. He ain't going to play tonight, and they're missing William Karlsson, and they're missing Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone. Not a lot of offense right now generated from Vegas, so I think you could potentially jump on Ottawa as a dog. But the Islanders and the Flames right there, the under in the New York game, and then the Calgary game, and then Philly as a dog, and then Florida as well. But like I said, we broke down all the games over at ftnbets.com. Dangle a bet. Selly, and as you see there, doing okay. The 41 units is not bad, but the shot props is really where it's been at so far. And one of the cool things that I like over at FTN is we keep track of everything. So the sides have been 33 and 22, 11 units, and the props 166. So we're up 26 units over at FTN Bets, and that's mostly just been shot props. So we got a few more that we can target here tonight. Hopefully we can provide a couple winners. Mean Street's continuing here on Game Plus Network. Mean Streets continuing here on a Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you. Producer Tino is going to join me in the final segment. We will talk a little NFL, some NBA as well. We have a few games on the hard court here. So as I mentioned, 9 games on the ice. That's what I'm thinking here from a shot prop standpoint. Yesterday was pretty good, as I mentioned, 4 for 5. But Dustin Brown, it's the one guy that I'm like, yes, Dustin Brown. He's the most confident. I'm always in Dustin Brown, so got to eat that L. But hopefully we can continue here. And no surprise, Shea Theodore here, but guys, I mean, I don't know what it is, man. I'm a huge Shea Theodore fan. I mean, my buddies are already talking about a Vegas trip and everyone's rocking Jack Eichel tees, and I'm like, no, I'm rocking a Shea Theodore fan. I love this guy. I love the way that he plays hockey. As I mentioned so many times on this show, that he has to generate some offense from the back end because they're missing so many guys up front. And this is a guy who's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games without Mark Stone and Pacioretty, and he has hit the over 2.5 in every game but one. So he's getting there right at that number 3, but he's logging a lot of ice time, anywhere from like he's averaging 23 minutes over those 7 games. He only played 20 the other night. That game was just done in the third period, so maybe they were giving him some rest. This could be a more competitive game for him. He had one game last week where he played 27 minutes. So I'm going to Shea Theodore in there. Josh Anderson is new for me. I haven't picked him on this show. I grabbed him last week at plus money, or in the last game rather, plus money. Personally, I didn't give it to the FTN. I just don't like to give all. I mean, I could sit there and give you 20 picks, but what's the good of that? You just get confused and pile up more losses that way. But Josh Anderson's in my top 5 here today, plus money at 2.5 shots. I don't know if Jonathan Drouin's going to play. They sent down Cole Caulfield. Anderson's playing way more this year than he did last year. He's back-to-back games of 19 minutes. He's got six shots, 2 shots, and 6 shots in his last 3 games. He put 6 pucks on net against the Wings. He's cleared 2.5 here in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of his past 8 games. So Anderson is one of those rare power forwards that puts his head down and just goes hard to the net. And I dig it. I love it. You just don't see that so much in the NHL. He's not afraid to shoot the puck. Like I said, he's getting more ice time here. So I'm going to take the over Josh Anderson 2.5. And then Tyler Seguin, we've given a couple times here. And until books adjust, I think we just continue to ride this out. He's been plus money in some spots. Use the free prop shop so you don't have to go digging around, but check your book to see what the prop will be for him. It should be 2.5. I think at worst case, maybe minus 110, minus 115. I'm seeing Bet365. I'm seeing plus money. And he has hit 2.5 shots in 6 straight games. He's cleared that, and clearing it easy. 5 shots in his last game, 6 before that, and he has at least 4 in 4 of his past 5 games as well. And Calgary is a bit of a tough spot for him because the Flames are pretty stingy, but I'm backing it. I like it. And, I'm loving it. I'm just like the way that he shoots the puck. And, I like these volume shooters that are quote unquote bit of puck hogs. It's kind of what a lot of these guys are, right? I mean, Pasternak as well. Like, I don't know what there really is to say. I mean, we got the pasta. We're eating pasta here today. We're eating rich. If Pasternak, we're eating good. I'll say that. As Cam always says, when I used to do shows with Cam Stewart, shout out to him, he used to say, man, we're eating like kings tonight. If the LA Kings win, we're eating like kings. But, I don't know, pasta's maybe not eating like a king, but nonetheless, I've wasted too much time talking about it. Pasternak, at least 3 shots in every game. This is actually at 3.5. That's a misprint by me. That's my bad. That should be at 3.5. I take the over 3.5. You won't find him at 2.5, but 3.5, I take the over on that. He has cleared 3.5 in every single game, but 2. And Detroit, I mean, they just allowed 40 plus shots to the Habs, who aren't really good. So that top line should be able to have their way, especially with no Dylan Larkin. And then the other guy on the way out is Aaron Ekblad. No Sam Bennett, so I can't go to Sam Bennett. I'm fine with Barkov if you want to go that way. I didn't give Alex Ovechkin because I think it's just, kind of too obvious with Ovi. He leads the league in shot attempts. He's always among the leaders in shots. If you can get him at 3.5 at a decent price, I think you do that. But if you're looking for something else from this game to parlay, I would go with Ekblad because you could probably get him at plus money as opposed to Barkov at around -150, -160. It's a little bit riskier, but this is a guy who has had at least 5 shots in 3 games and another guy that eats a lot of minutes. He played 26 minutes in his last game and 29 minutes the game before that. He's actually played north of 26 minutes in 6 games this season, and he has 9 points in 9 games. He likes to shoot the puck as well. All right, good luck. A lot more. I'm telling you, a lot more. I showed you the sheet earlier. There's like 5 or 6 dudes that I like as well over at ftnbets.com. Use that promo code NHL or just watch Dangle Bet Selly. All right, one more segment to get to. Producer Tino's in here next. We'll talk some NBA and get his thoughts on tonight's football game. I feel like he would be in on Mike White on a rushing touchdown. We'll get his thoughts. Mean Street's continuing here on Game Plus Network. Welcome back to Mean Streets here one final time. Producer Tino here with us now. We'll talk a little NBA. You crushed it yesterday, sir, with some NBA picks. Well done, well done. Giving you a little bit more time here today. I know I'm a bad host in terms of timing, but we'll give you a little bit more time. But first, before NBA, got to get your thoughts on the Jets, man. I feel like, Mike White, I think you got to, you've been hitting, how many touchdown calls have you hit from rushing quarterbacks on Thursday night? I feel like 5 or 6.
An aggressive amount. We're playing with house money at this point, and I think that's the most dangerous thing I could play with is house money. So from Sam Darnold down, it's just, it's been fun. It's been really fun, but really there's logic behind it. And we talked about this at the start, and Gilles is one of the guys who kind of pioneered it with me. I kind of did it for fun, but in terms of odds and value, and if you bank on some of these first touchdowns, it's really, you just look at it from a game-by-game perspective. Obviously, it all goes into the same bankroll, but if you're betting these every Thursday and you're hitting the anytimes or the first touchdown scores, it covers you for an 18-game season. So I got hit once. Sam Darnold gave me 18 units. Now I have 18 games where I have a unit to play on a quarterback touchdown, which has hit. So to answer your question, yes, we're on Mike White at 6.5 to 1 tonight. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go.
We hit Carson Wentz already. Shout out to Gilles too, because he told me to download. People get on him for his odds, but he followed me up and told me to get Bet365 to get plus 1,000 on a Carson Wentz touchdown. And I did exactly that, and I was able to cash on that. We were on it on DraftKings as well, but there's a method behind this madness. There is a method behind the madness. And like you said, we show our bets here at FTN. So, yeah, let's keep riding it. Ride the hot hand.
I think that's the best thing is we hold ourselves accountable over there and we keep track of absolutely everything. So tonight in the NBA, what are you looking at here?
So really interesting right now. There aren't many props up. I do think there's a big revenge narrative out there in two ways. So the Lakers are playing Oklahoma City tonight. Um, Obviously, you think right away Russell Westbrook, right, and his triple doubles. I can't get a line on that. He did have it the last time they played. Now there's a hefty line for the Lakers, -13, and deservingly so. They were up 26 the last time they played Oklahoma City and blew the game on the road and lost. So I do think they're coming back for vengeance. However, that's a hefty line, so I don't know if I want to touch it. I'd rather bet Westbrook triple-double again. I just don't have a line on it. So I will bet what I could see. Right now, I'm definitely on the Jazz. They are away in Atlanta. Atlanta coming off a loss against the Nets last night. They played all right. Utah's a really good team, a really, really good defensive team as well. So I like the under in this as well. But with a spread that low, I think that's solely based on home field advantage or home court advantage for Atlanta, and they expect it to be tight, which is fair, but I like Utah in this. And then from my dog, I'm going to take 6.5 points here for the Celtics against the Heat. This is the NBA TV game, the first one. I actually think this is going to be very tight. I think this is going to be one of those potential Eastern, playoff previews. And these teams, they played 3 times last year. Boston was able to win on the road, and then Miami actually won on the road in Boston the next 2 times. 2 things I'm looking at here. I'm taking the 6.5 because I expect this to be a tight game. I really like Jimmy Butler to get a double-double at 4-1. I was looking at Bam Adebayo. He's at -139. I think that's kind of a lock based on how Boston plays in terms of their bigs. But Jimmy Butler was able to get the double-double 1 out of the 3 games he had against them last year and was pretty close with like 8 rebounds the other 2 times. I like how he plays defensively. I think he's going to have to crash the boards this game. So at 4-1, I do think there's value there, and it's probably one of the early props I'm eyeing up in terms of what's out there right now.
Nice. I dig it. We got to get out of here. Tino's sharp. The NBA has been lit. A lot of sharp minds over at FTNbets.com. And as I say all the time, you have that betting package. Somebody just DM me about the hockey package and the value of it. You get every pick across every sport. So I think it's super valuable. I'm looking at the prop shop too. I don't see Russell Westbrook for a triple-double. I see 8.5 boards. I see 8.5 assists. I see his points, rebounds, and assists number is pretty high, up at 37.5. But LeBron James is questionable today. So if LeBron James doesn't play, then I think we could take the over 37.5 because, as you mentioned, he did have a really good game against his former team. From producer Tino, Gilles Gallant, you guys watching, thank you so much. Enjoy the football tonight. Good luck on the ice and on the hard court. We'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.